Welcome to Uniquely New Zealand. Thank you so much for joining us just in time for a quick recap of the week. Now, for the last 10 months and 5 episodes, I've brought you in-depth analysis on anything and everything New Zealand. But today we're going to have to take a break from that to look at the single greatest threat to New Zealand and its way of life. John Oliver, the living embodiment of why people both love and hate the British. Now, John Oliver has been making a huge splash in the last few years with his comedic take on serious news. However, there's been one constant on his show that should disregard any credibility you have for this man, this show, and this company.
So let's move on to New Zealand, the country whose major form of transportation is bungee jumping. And finally tonight, New Zealand, Australia's cheer pet.
That's right, I'm talking about John Oliver, otherwise known as the Worst John. So let's take a moment to look at John Oliver as a person. Now, over the years, he's taken a fairly left-wing stance, from his coverage on government peekaboo to condoms in American schools, and his near-constant jabs at the Americans' own Annoying Orange. However, it might surprise you to learn that John Oliver has been recorded saying some very sexist, racist, and downright un-American things.
What say you and I blow this pop stand and head off for a spot of slap and tickle? I mean sex, in case the lingo hasn't made it to the States. You in the boobs.
Not only that, there's also this clip of him chasing down this poor, innocent Asian child. Okay, full disclosure, those were clips from Community, but I'm pretty sure him calling Alison Brie boobs was improvised. So let's get on to talking about the times John Oliver actually attacked what's uniquely New Zealand. Hashtag uniquely New Zealand. Now, let's start with wallabies. You may be saying, Gliscor, why you gotta bring wallabies into this? They're like kangaroos, but less evil. And more importantly, they have nothing to do with New Zealand whatsoever. Well, I didn't bring wallabies into this. Johnny here did.
New Zealand, Wallaby Fuck Island.
Wallabies are fucking Australian. Not only that, but wallabies are literally our worst enemies. Seriously, the Australians' Major League Rugby team is called the Wallabies. We have no more reason to hate these things. Come on, John. And you may be thinking, Gliscor, it was an innocent mistake, it only happened once. You can surely forgive something that only happens one time.
Is he concerned about the South Island's rising wallaby population? If so, good for you, Eminem. Those things are giant rats with pouches. They must be stopped.
Another thing Johnny and his crack team of researchers got wrong was calling Bill English our Prime Minister. Now, I'm not saying he didn't technically hold the title, but if it came down to a fair election between two candidates, there's no way he would have won. That's a joke for New Zealanders only. I'm not here to spoon-feed you, crack open a book. Speaking of spoon-feeding, back in 2015, John Oliver did a deep dive into food wastage in America. Yet when he came after not my Prime Minister Bill English, he did this.
Pizza topped with blueberries, onions, and a printed out copy of the Wikipedia entry for pizza. And finally, a pizza topped with 25 Blu-rays of 8 Mile.
Not only that, there's also been multiple instances of him wasting large amounts of food, such as him taking only one bite from this large selection of McDonald's trash, allegedly shoving a cooler full of juice up his rectum, and just kind of dropping a million raisins on the ground for some reason. Look, my point is, Johnny don't give a fuck. He doesn't. He really doesn't. But there's also one more heinous case against him when it comes to food.
New Zealand, the country that, like a bad edible arrangement, is full of fucking kiwis.
Okay, kiwi fruit is fucking amazing. In fact, I was gonna do this bit where I take a bite of a kiwi fruit before continuing with this piece. However, I don't really have the budget to do that because we can't all survive off Game of Thrones money. Speaking of games, Johnny loves his games. From creating several flavors of pizza to mock Bill English, sending a dildo flag to Peter Jackson to attack Stephen Joyce, and finally, the most genius, clever, witty joke him and his team of 11 writers could come up with.
That's right, the ruling party of New Zealand was accused of ripping off Eminem. And, I can't imagine how angry that must have made Eminem. I'd go so far as to say that New Zealand has made an enemy of Eminem.
You really want to do that, John? You really want to bring accents into this? You sound like a tea kettle that just wants to be a real boy. You sound like Daniel Craig playing the 40-year-old virgin. You sound like someone torturing some awful British cuisine to make it talk, but that's all besides the point. Now, you might be wondering, what is the point? What is the point of this whole thing? You may be saying, Gliscor, why are you doing this? John Oliver's this big, powerful, rich, probably, comedian, and you're just some asshole with a camera and a shitty tripod. Well, yes, I am those things. But I'm also a New Zealander. I'm a Kiwi. I'm a flightless bird-loving, tui-guzzling, short shorts-wearing Kiwi. And if some British bulldog butterface is gonna make fun of my country on his fancy late-night talk show, I'm gonna stand up and do something about it. 'Cause if we're dumb enough to be made fun of on some dumb show, we are also dumb enough to have dumb wannabe YouTubers making dumb videos on the whole dumb event. And that is what makes my country truly, uniquely New Zealand. Thank you so much for joining us. That's our show. Good night!